All right, good afternoon. Again, thank you for being here. We began preparations yesterday for our road trip. Um, this Saturday at the College Station, obviously a team we have tremendous respect for. Their coaching staff, their players, their program, a lot of tradition. Great players, a really explosive football team, and our guys are really excited about the opportunity ahead of us. So that being said, open questions.
Coach, what type of mentality, approach, culture does a program need to have to go into a road environment like you're going to see Saturday and compete at the high level? Compete at?
Well, I mean, anytime you go on the road, you've always heard that term business trip, and what does that really mean? Well, best way to put it, I guess, is that, you work on toughness and discipline and resiliency and execution and leadership throughout the course of winter, right? Fourth quarter program, springtime, the summer, fall camp, and everything else. And you've got to make those things real because that's what you have to pack in your bags before you take a trip to a place to play, an excellent football team like Texas A&M. So the mentality is that of a business trip, understanding the task at hand and understanding what we must do to give ourselves our best chance on every single play.
Do you feel like you're going to learn a lot about your team in that regard this week? Because obviously it's something you haven't experienced yet with this team.
I think every day is a learning experience with our guys because every single day for us is new. So I think we'll learn as much this week as we have the past week and the week before that.
Coach, after the Bethune game, you talked about leaving some meat on the bone on offense. Did you feel like that was the case, or what was progress like in the second game?
Well, I thought we started off sluggish, like we mentioned before, and then towards the end of the first half, I believe 5 of our last 6 drives we scored. I know, albeit 2 of them were field goals, then we had 1 punt. We came up short on a couple of drives that were self-inflicted situations and circumstances, where we had a penalty that we could have avoided. We could have called it a little bit better. I could have helped out a little bit better. So there's some things that were strong in progress type of way, but in other things that we felt that, hey, it's just not good enough. But I tell the players and the staff all the time, you don't let a win feel like a loss. You get what you did well, you get better at it, you get the things you don't do so well at, and you improve them. If it's not good enough, if you ever lose a game, it shouldn't be good enough. Or if it's not good enough when you do lose a game, it shouldn't be good enough, just because you got the win. You've got to look at those errors, those issues, and you've got to correct them. And so that's what we've been doing, building off of that. Yesterday was a big technical and fundamental day for us in all phases, so we feel we've made some progress.
Mario, after you spoke on Saturday, you kind of came out and talked to us and kind of, you took responsibility and said, if I play this again, we're going to lose. I mean, what does it say about him that he takes that responsibility and kind of takes that on himself?
It's great to take ownership as opposed to taking blame, because this thing all works together. I mean, you got to be in sync. The passing game is about precision. It's about timing, right? To be accurate, all the parts got to be in sync. And sometimes you manufacture some plays and you extend some plays and whatnot, but that's the kind of guy he is. He's always going to want to take, responsibility for everything. But I think as a program, we always take responsibility of it together. And again, always building off the stuff that we can to continue moving forward, because that's the key for us, is continued improvement.
And Mario, I know you've talked about physicality and all that. I'm just curious, you played 2 games. I know teams always want to develop, whatever you want to say it is, a personality or whatever they can lay their hat on. Do you have a sense for an identity of this team yet on offense and defense? Like, do you think you've seen enough to say, okay, this is what we are on offense, this is what we are on defense at this point through 2?
I don't think you proclaim your identity. I don't think you go out and you say I'm this or I'm that. I think you go out and you play it and you show it with what you do on the field. Your film is your resume, right? It's not your tweet or your t-shirt. So I think in the 2 games that we have played, there are certainly on both sides of the ball up front that we're showing progress. We're working our way towards being a more physical team. We're starting to use our hands better. We're coming out of our hips better. I say that like a broken record because that's part of it. You got to come off the ball. You got to strike people. And there are really good moments of execution. Other ones that are close, other ones that are not so close. And so we tend on, when we come together on Sunday, we don't shine a positive light on stuff. That's not real. You shine a realistic, just light and take a realistic snapshot of what you are. And we progressed a lot since the springtime, you know, when we first got together, and we feel that there's a lot to be improved upon, a lot of things that are right there in front of us that we need to work into reality, and not so much just hope and wish that it comes out that way. And it starts with the preparation. And I'm talking about every scout team card. You know, I'm talking about if they're running a zone pressure and that punch contained guy is really wide and works right through the shoulder of the tackle and then pops out, it's got to show up like that on the card, and our players have got to see it. And that's on every coach, every analyst, every GA in the building. You know, it's no different than a prize fighter, you know, training for the big heavyweight fight, right? If he's training against competition that's not pushing him, he's probably going to have a rough day in the ring, right? Same thing for football. So we've got to continue to elevate the standards of every part of our program, and that's the exciting part for us. You know, our players like that, our staff really likes that. So it's been a good start to the week.
Coach, just big picture wise, you know, what the kind of opportunity a big game like this provides just from a recruiting perspective. I mean, obviously you guys will be on a big stage and, you know, big atmosphere and it's a big opponent. Just from a recruiting perspective, just the opportunity that this match kind of creates.
Sure, I think everybody wants to, you know, watch teams that are playing on big stages and see what type of progress teams have made. So, yeah, I think anytime you get an opportunity to play a great team like this on a national stage, of course, there are a lot of eyeballs on you, you know, and certainly, you know, recruiting is affected by a number of different things, but progress and performance, right, increased, you know, success rates are typically one of the more critical factors in the recruiting cycle.
I want to ask you about Akeem Mesidor. I know he's a key player for you guys. Was he able to practice yesterday? And kind of what's his status going into this week?
He did. He practiced about half the time. I think he'll be a full-speed player by tomorrow. It's nothing major. It's something that's more nagging, and that should be cleaned out, wiped out by tomorrow, Wednesday. Tomorrow or Wednesday, I should say. So we feel good that he'll be a full-speed player on Saturday.
And Avante Williams, I know he didn't play, I think, on defense. I don't know if he did special teams on Saturday. Just curious. I mean, you guys obviously have rotations and competition. Just curious where he is right now on the team in terms of his role.
Avante didn't play as much on Saturday. That's obvious. And I think, look, Avante's he's a good dude. He really is. Known him for a long, long time. Recruited him at the other place. And I think, you know, the obvious thing is everybody, well, the social media, this and that. It's like, look, I met with Avante, and one thing we're not going to do is we're always going to be straightforward and blunt and honest. Not going to create drama or narratives. That just ain't it. You're not going to have that here. He's a good young man, and we've got to get to work and continue to get better and better. And he wants to be good. He's got a really, really bright future. We're going to choose not to create narratives and drama out there in our program.
Mario, excuse me, and this is about Avante, and also I want to ask you about James Williams. You have so many good, talented safeties. You talk a lot about not just being a football coach of the X's and O's, but of helping these young men grow out. How do you deal with a player who might be frustrated with lack of playing time? Is that a common occurrence as a head coach?
How do we deal with it?
Yeah, I mean,
With honesty and transparency. Why? There's no other way to deal with it. We don't know of any other way. There's no, I guess there's no, same thing, there's no drama or narrative that come with the processes of growth and development as a student athlete, football player, right? Certain people hit their stride at certain times. It's unpredictable. It's probably one of the most imperfect sciences there is in the world. When's a guy going to peak? When's a guy going to hit his stride and be a great player and a great contributor? You're talking about guys that are all contributing and doing a lot of good things. Sometimes some guys are a little bit ahead of others. Sometimes, you know, there's some ground to be gained, and some guys are making it up fast, others are not. Honesty and transparency. No nonsense and no BS.
can you say something also about James Williams and Cam? And also I want to ask about Al Blakes, just each one, how they're doing.
They're all doing really well. Obviously, James played at an extremely high level, absolute stud this past game. and Cam continues to play really well, and Al is also playing really well. So we feel like we're developing really well there, and that we have a lot of guys that can play a lot of different positions, and we expect them to play at a high level, and just as importantly, we expect a strong competitive response from our guys. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I mean by that is when guys are competing, instead of taking a turn where maybe a guy may choose to pout or to create an attitude or to create, that's not it. It's not for this program. Competitive responses, when guys see competition, the whole purpose and intent of competition is to make everyone aware that nothing but their very best is going to be good enough. So that's what we mean by that.
Or what'd you take away from what App State was able to do to Texas A&M? And when you've been on that side, when you're expected to win a game and you lose, what do you expect out of what A&M's going to return with this week?
App State played a really good game, and that was a really hard-fought game. Both teams made some incredible plays, you know. And the second part of the question, I'm sorry?
When you're expected to win a game and you lose one, what do you come back with? The fire that the team comes back with after that.
What do you come
tell
back
a lot,
with?
You tell a lot from a team how they respond to a loss like that. So when you've been on the other side of that, if you've got a big loss that you probably figure your team shouldn't win, what kind of response do you expect from Texas?
What kind of response? I'm not sure what the question is or what you're getting at, but I would say that anytime a team does not, achieve their 1-0 goal, that they're going to go right back to the facts, and go back to process, because, just trying to analyze the results is not going to do much. The things that led to not getting the ultimate goal is going to be analyzed to the extreme to make sure that everything is done so that it doesn't happen again.
Coach, from watching film from Saturday, what are some of the areas across your offensive line that you'd like to see improvement from moving forward?
Sure. Well, we had a couple of lapses mentally where it's almost like you saw a ghost. You thought that a stunt was going to carry its way out an extra gap over, and a guy came loose, and that happened a couple of times. There were some really good moments of physicality, and guys they played hard, and we had a couple of miscommunications as well. But I mean, that's a high confidence group that has played really well, and Saturday was obviously not our best performance. But those are the things that stand out. I don't think it was a matter of trying not to prepare. I mean, guys really tried hard and worked that preparation, and I thought the intent and focus was there, but we didn't execute, which when I say execute, I want to make clear that execution falls on the entire program. That means we didn't teach it well enough. That means we didn't show them a good enough look on the scout team when we were out there practicing for the opponent. We weren't descriptive enough or detailed enough in that particular situation on that particular play, because what we practice is what we saw. So obviously we've just got to do a better job in those things. And at the same time, be very truthful in saying, hey, at the end of the first half, we would take the ball and score 5 of the next 6 possessions. And so we have the ability to, when momentum is something that's not in our favor, that we can reestablish that and gain that.
And then a few more questions. And then for Sean Smith, use someone in the slot, using the run game. How do you expect his role or his creative role to really expand as the season progresses?
The better he gets, the more he'll play. It's no different than any other player on the football team. If a guy continues to show that he can help us win games, it's the way it is. I mean, there is the business side of football is something that is not talked about enough in college football, but performance is everything. There is no discrimination in playing time, right? The guys that prove it play. The guys that, let's just say game day is not an experiment. It's not a let's see if a guy can do it. It's guys that have stood the test of time through practices and shown that they can help us.
A young guy like Lee Curtis, he got his first start, and we heard how great he was in camp, and he goes out and had a couple plays. Just how do you kind of
technique, man? Technique, and that's what you want to show up in a game, obviously, right? You want to be able to do this. The fundamentals of football, they haven't changed, right? You bend at the knees, right? You play low to high, you play with your hands inside, and in a critical moment, it just boom, had a lapse and technique got away. So we've got to get Malik to play the best of his ability. See a little to be able to see a lot. Those eyes wandered a little bit. We saw a great effort, try to come back and, get in there and make a tackle, or make it close enough to make a play or whatnot. And there's a lot of bright spots with him in camp to make us feel confident he's going to be a good player. We've got to continue working with him on technique and keep trusting the process and get him right.
Coach, what do you think of the Texas A&M's offense, the challenges that those skill guys possess, even though they had a struggling game last game?
They have the most, or at least as explosive as anybody else in the country. If you look at their track times, those are legit times, 10-1, 10-6, 10-5. And these aren't, some of the guys are smaller slot guys, but there's big guys. They've got big speed all over the place. They're extremely physical and big up front and athletic. So they can knock you back and cover you up. Their tight ends are very versatile, as blockers, as receivers. They can stretch the field, they can knock you back. Just a very, very dangerous offense, and certainly we're very well aware of their capabilities.
Mario, noise, the noise factor, Kyle Field, 102,000. Is that something that especially the younger players just have to live through to speak to do it right and not make mistakes and stuff? I know you practice with noise, but it's not the same.
Sure, I think it's more. I think it's 115,000, if I'm not mistaken. It's up there. It's well over 100. But if you've never seen it before, never practiced in noise before, and if you let it get in your head, it'll affect you tremendously. And if you practice in it, if you really stress the importance of how you signal, how you communicate without having to verbally correct, because you're not going to be able to do that, right? We understand that, they create an unbelievable atmosphere, which is exciting for our guys, quite honestly. It's exciting. Come on, when you're growing up and you play college football, you want to play in games like this. You recognize their tradition, you respect them and their program, and you can't wait for the opportunity, to go find out where we are as a program. So, but we're training it, obviously. I'm sure the residents of Coral Gables are really happy about the speakers blasting all the time, but it's part of our process, so we'll continue working at it.
Great. Thank you very much, Coach.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Be safe. Go Canes.